All right, today we are making basil pesto. So if you have been gardening for the past couple months, you may have decided to plant some pesto plants or basil plants, and what in the world are you going to do with all of that basil? At a certain point, it becomes a little overwhelming. So pesto is very quick, very easy, and also very easy to freeze. So you can use it throughout the year, which is really nice. So a couple very easy ingredients that most people have on hand or are very fine, they're not hard to find. We have garlic cloves. I'm using walnuts, but you can use pine nuts as well. Most traditional recipes use pine nuts. Salt and pepper. This is just Parmesan cheese that I shredded, and a giant bowl of basil. And then some olive oil. Some recipes are going to call for lemon juice just to keep it green, because otherwise it can oxidize if you leave the pesto out. If you're freezing it, it'll probably keep its color and you shouldn't have a problem. So I'm using my little Cuisinart because I love it, and any kind of food processor will work just fine, but that happens to be my go-to item of choice. Besides that, you don't really need anything. Well, that and some jars. There'll be some pickle making later on today, so just ignore those. But some jars that you can, or you can use a ice cube tray. You can pour it in there to freeze it. It just depends on how you want to store it. Or if you're just making pesto to use today, then you don't have to worry about any of that. So I'm going to throw in, I'm using 4 garlic cloves because I happen to really like garlic. I'm going to throw that in there. 1/3 of a cup of walnuts. And the recipe should be posted as well, so you don't have to worry about that too much. We're going to start with grinding that up and then go from there. Just adding each ingredient as we go. All right, and I will have some finished pictures for you guys here in a few minutes, but make sure that when you're using your basil, whether you have the smaller varieties or the larger varieties, it doesn't matter. Try to take the leaves off the stems because you don't really want the stem material in there. It doesn't grind up as fine as easily, so it'll take a lot more time. And it's just a nicer finished product if you take the stems off. So all of these have been taken off their stems. I have 2 different varieties of basil here, actually. You can see some of the much smaller leaves, like right there. Those are from a different variety of basil that I planted. They're hiding, of course. There we go. So you can see the 2 different varieties there. We have some very large basil, and then I planted, it's called a compact basil. And that gave me that. Be aware of whatever type of basil you planted, because that's going to give you a very different flavor depending on what you do. The other thing I'm going to mention is the Parmesan cheese. Some recipes will call for pecorino or various different types of cheese. It's entirely up to you. If you want to change that up, you always can. If you make this a couple times and you decide you want to cut down the cheese, you want to add cheese, you'll have to do it to your taste, but this is a good starter recipe, and I'll have some finished product pictures here in a few minutes. Thank you. Bye.